A Chris Jones deal is coming soon? Well, Adam Schefter thinks so, along with Darnell Mooney has been linked with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what's on tap on today's Chiefs Report. We appreciate you hanging out with us. I'm your host, as always, Jay Sanders, and the Chris Jones saga continues to evolve, and, well, it seems as though we're getting closer and closer to a deal. And I got to tell you what, I think we just need that last little push, that last little bit to keep Stone Cold Jones in Kansas City for the long term. So, I'm going to do this. If you would want Chris Jones to sign a contract today, then hit that subscribe button, because I know the more subscribers we get, the more Chris Jones is going to see how much the Chiefs Report, the Chiefs community, feels about him. And hopefully that deal gets done sooner rather than later. Plus, it shuts up the Raiders Report host who continues to trash on us and say that this channel will never go anywhere. The Chiefs channel is never going to be good because the Chiefs aren't that big of a fan base. Well, I know Chiefs Kingdom is way bigger than Raider Nation. So go down there, hit that subscribe button, because we got to get CJ back in a Chiefs uniform. And I also want to prove Mitchell Rent's wrong. All right, let's talk about where this reports comes from, as it's on the Pat McAfee Show. What a surprise. And it's Adam Schefter who says the Chris Jones deal isn't done yet, but the Chiefs would be surprised if they didn't get it done. Brian Burns, Josh Allen, blah, 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 all those stuff about the franchise tag doesn't really mean too much. But the top thing, that is what matters. Now, Dan Graziano also had a quote talking about the potential of him signing, and he said this: "Will Chris Jones escape Kansas City? Most around the league do not expect it, but they also don't expect the talented free agent defensive tackle to take a discount. The feeling is if Kansas City can reach the range of $27 million to $28 million per year, that should help close the deal. But the Chiefs have work to do. Jones could probably surpass those numbers if he hits the market. As one AFC scout told me, he is the blue chip player of the entire free agent class. Age be damned, he turns 30 this summer, obviously. The Chiefs made clear from the combine they will do everything possible. But remember that Kansas City typically doesn't pay premium salaries to its own defensive players. It did it for Jones 4 years ago, but the list isn't long." This all being said, I still think a deal is close, considering what Brett Veach said at the combine talking about Chris Jones, saying that both sides are continuing to work toward a deal and that ultimately Chris Jones wants to come back to play in Kansas City, and Brett Veach and the Kansas City Chiefs want him to be back as well. I do think the Adam Schefter report does reveal one thing. We're getting closer in terms of monetary value. I think that that's probably been the limit to, I would say, contract negotiations up until this point. As we know, Chris Jones wants to get what he's worth. We've talked about how he does not want to take a discount, and we know that. But I think the Chiefs were maybe potentially going in there a little lowballing him, trying to see if they would take a discount. I think at this point they've realized that's not going to happen, but we will pay you what we want to do. Now, obviously, this is all kind of a problem in terms of money because, well, L'jarius Sneed is technically still with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, today is when they officially franchise tag him. So today was when that $19.8 million hit the cap. He has permission right now to speak with teams about a potential trade, and he is an intriguing candidate to land elsewhere for draft pick compensation. If no trade, though, report says, he may just play on the tag. And while this wouldn't exactly be the best case scenario, you get to keep L'jarius Sneed. Now, obviously, this may mean that Chris Jones does end up walking because the contract may just not be there. Now, obviously, the money, we can kind of talk about that in a minute, but who are some likely trade candidates? Well, the Steelers actually emerged as one. Steelers Update had this saying, the Steelers have expressed interest in trading for recently franchise tag Chiefs cornerback L'jarius Sneed. Kansas City officially tagged Sneed and gave him permission to seek a trade. The reported compensation necessary to acquire the lockdown corner is at least a second-round pick and a long-term contract. So, you see it right there. His value is really going to be a second-round pick. That's what we have him quoted as right now. Now, I could see the potential of him going to a lower-tier first-round pick, although that does seem less likely given what the Chiefs would probably want out of him, and considering you're going to have to pay him right away. But I know that Chris Jones is the first priority for the Kansas City Chiefs. With that, you have to take monetary and money value into it and what cap space you have left. Right now, you take that $19.8 million out of your $36 million cap space, you're sitting just north of $10 million left. Now, you can restructure contracts of Jawan Taylor and Patrick Mahomes to increase that number. But if you want Chris Jones in Kansas City, I unfortunately think Sneed has to be gone. There is one possibility, though, and here it is. Would you take Chris Jones and L'jarius Sneed if that meant that was all you did? You don't get a wide receiver in free agency. You maybe sign back Drew Tranquil and Mike Edwards. You don't really get too many else. You let Willie Gay walk. Would you do that? You keep Chris Jones. You keep L'jarius Sneed, but that is the extent of your free agency season. It's just keeping those two guys. I want to know in the comment section, would you do that? I'm curious to see what you would say about this. Let me know. Yes, no, what are we thinking? Halfway maybe. I want to keep Jones. I want to keep Sneed. Is there one in particular? Well, here's your time, because I want today's comment section to be a message board, and I want everybody to just be talking back and forth and discussing this, because it's an interesting topic, and honestly, we're just under a week away now from the free agency season starting, so this topic is just going to get hotter and hotter. Just like all the Chiefs merchandise, and you can get some of the Super Bowl 58 shirts, not champions, but hey, I think it's a little nicer that the Chiefs won this Super Bowl, so you can get a nice little long sleeve t-shirt, Chiefs and Niners. And the one thing I'll point out, and the reason why I am actually thinking about getting one of these, I honestly may get one tonight. First of all, the 50% off, so that's pretty good. Second of all, you don't really see many Kansas City Chiefs logos that are yellow. That's pretty cool to me. Plus, we won the Super Bowl, and you get to this shirt, so I think it's kind of nice to have. 50% off. It's usually $40. You can get it for $20. They've got sizes small, medium, large, extra large. Go to chatsports.com/SBLS for Super Bowl long sleeve. I know, I'm pretty cool. SBLS, chatsports.com/SBLS. 50% off. You'll get it while the deal lasts, because I'm telling you, this is a pretty cool shirt, and plus it helps that the Chiefs won it. Let's head into our second topic of today's show, and that's Darnell Mooney and the potential of him signing with Kansas City. Now, the Chiefs were reportedly linked with Mooney in the past couple days, and this comes as no surprise because obviously Brett Veach wants to get the wide receiver room ready for 2024. And as talked about, they want Chris Jones and they want to get their wide receivers all fixed up. L'jarius Sneed is kind of a back thought besides that. So I asked this because I know I've seen the comments talking about Darnell Mooney. You want him, you like him, you want to see him in Kansas City? Well, here's your time. If you want him, spam the comments with Y for yes, because that makes me realize we got to get Darnell Mooney in the Chiefs red. Y for yes if you would like the Chiefs to sign Darnell Mooney. In for no if you don't want to see Darnell Mooney anywhere near to Kansas City. Now this report comes from Jeremy Fowler, of ESPN, saying the Chicago Wild is much better than his 2023 stat line of 31 catches for 414 yards and 5 touchdowns suggests. The Chiefs or Titans could be players here. Now I like what Darnell Mooney brings to play because he's got a lot of ways you can use him. He can be a streak wide receiver, although it's not what he was really doing in Chicago. He can. But he's similar to the Rashee Rices of the world, where he's going to have a lot of in-routes. He can do screens. He can be a gadget guy in some facets. I think that he would honestly endorse that role really well. I don't think they really did that much in Chicago, but when he's playing with the Chiefs, you got to be ready for anything. And given I think Kadarius Toney will not be on the team next year, obviously we kind of wait for that. Obviously, he wouldn't say money, but at the same time, I don't think it's worth it to have Kadarius Toney on the team. Guess what? I think Darnell Mooney could fill that role to a tenth of what a good degree of what Kadarius Toney was doing. Again, this past year wasn't exactly the greatest year. 414, 13.4 on the average, 1 touchdown on 31 receptions. But I don't want you to look at this and think, man, why do we want this guy? Because this is just a sample of what he has been able to do. He's been able to do a lot throughout his career. Back in 2021, he had a 1,000-yard season. That was when he was, in theory, the wide receiver one in Chicago. I'm not going to sit here and say that he was for sure that guy. But at the same time, over 1,000 yards, Allen Robinson was still there. But nobody else was there trying to battle him for that other part. So I want you to kind of look at this and say, okay, he's a good value guy. He had a bad year last year, so his contract, not too bad. 4 years, $41 million is what Spotrac has him labeled as. I would have to think it's probably going to be maybe more closer in value to 3 years, $30 million, especially with Brett Veach and what he would like to do with wide receivers. But I'm not going to lie. Say you don't cut Kadarius Toney, you keep McCole Hardman in the free agency season. This wide receiver depth chart turns into a really, really cool thing. I love Rashee Rice at 1. I think you keep Kadarius Toney if you don't cut him. I think he has value still because, I mean, if you cut him, you don't gain anything. You don't get money back. Nothing happens. You just kind of, in some ways, cut off a ball and chain if he is that. You get Darnell Mooney at wide receiver 3, and then you keep McCole Hardman at wide receiver 4. Obviously, Justin Watson was underused this past year, and you still have Sky Moore. Now, I say this all that if they get Darnell Mooney, if they get Calvin Ridley, if they get whatever, I still expect the Chiefs to use a draft pick on a wide receiver. Now, I think what wide receiver they sign maybe depends where they draft him, but I'm pretty certain right now it's going to be in the first round, and maybe they don't sign a wide receiver. Maybe they sign Darnell Mooney, and then they cut Kadarius Toney, and they need one more wide receiver to help fill that room. Good news is, this is one of the deepest wide receiver draft classes I think I've even seen in the recent history. We talk about the guys who I think the Chiefs could target. Well, it's probably these right here. Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin, Keon Coleman, and Adonai Mitchell. Now, obviously, everybody talking about Xavier Worthy becoming the Chiefs' top target after his impressive and record-breaking 4.21 combine 40-yard dash record time. Really, really good there. I think overall, A.D. Mitchell's the better player, though. I don't know whether he'll be there at 32. I don't think Keon Coleman will be there. Troy Franklin is also an option. I know Xavier Worthy is fast, but I still think I would rather A.D. Mitchell as an overall player. I note the Chiefs love their speedsters, but it's just kind of my opinion. But my opinion doesn't mean it's the right one. This is where you jump in. I want you to pick a wide receiver. If you were Brett Veach, that you would draft at pick number 32 in the 2024 NFL Draft. Is it Xavier Worthy, the guy who has the record-breaking time for the combine? That makes sense with Kansas City. Well, I want you to type W. Is it Keon Coleman, the FSU standout who coming from Michigan State? Then type C. Is it Troy Franklin? Then type F. Or is it A.D. Mitchell, the guy that I like the most? Type M. W, C, F, or M. What are you thinking here in terms of wide receivers in the first round? Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Like I said, as the deals come closer and closer and free agency grows closer and closer, we're going to be putting out a lot more videos here and making sure you're up to date on pretty much everything that you could see in terms of Kansas City Chiefs content. So hit that sub button. I hope Chris Jones is a Chief the next time I see you, but hey, we don't know, and we're just watchers at this point. We appreciate you hanging out with us. I know it takes some time out of your day, but for now, peace out, Chiefs.